It's Wednesday afternoon, 4 p.m. in Central Europe. It's International Human Spaceflight Day. Yes, Yuri's night. And it's finally Space Café Poland time. Our Space Café Poland by Lukasz Wilczynski and with his guest, Maciej Krzyzanowski, I hope I pronounced it somehow correctly, will begin very soon. How was it? Again?
It was perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Amazing. As always, we really appreciate your participation and ongoing feedback, and we will learn and improve based on your feedback. SpaceWatch.Global is a Europe-based online platform for information in and about space and new space activities in a geopolitical context. First, I would like to thank all our private and corporate supporters who support our independent journalism alive. We appreciate that. In case you want to join the supporters team, be aware that it is just a click away from you on our website. I know many of you are familiar with our website, our bi-weekly and daily newsletters, and the Space Café podcast. Don't miss the latest one, which features Terry Vapola on green code ventures, green investments, digital transformation, and the future of space technology. Stay tuned for more Space Café radios and more episodes of our Space Economy Insights. We have a few more in production for you. You find this and all our audio series wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to become a space watcher, let the world know about it with your cool t-shirt or mug, visit our fan shop. It is open for you on our website. And if you've missed any of our previous web talks, we have an archive on our webpage in the event section. And of course, we are on YouTube. So please note that we will host Space Café Poland live regularly. With that, my job is almost done for today, and I would like to hand over to your host. Lukasz, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's absolutely a pleasure to run the Space Café Poland and to start on this particular day. So it's a very amazing part. So let me tell you quickly about the Space Café Poland. It will be a series run in English that we will put more spotlight on what is happening in Polish space sector. And we will start from, you will see today, from amazing stuff about downstream, about satellite data. Then we will jump to some university events, to analog habitats. We will visit space companies through all the year, and I will bring to you more information, what is exciting in Polish space sector, because there is a lot of things in the space sector probably you don't know, and this is my role to bring it on and to bring it to you. So without any additional delays, I will jump into our first episode. That episode with a very special guest. So let me welcome Maciej Krzyzanowski from CloudFerro. Hello, Maciej. It's a pleasure to have you today. Let me quickly introduce Maciej. Maciej is the president and the chief executive of CloudFerro, and he's also a director of European Association of Remote Sensing Companies Council based in Brussels. Maciej graduated from the Faculty of Physics at the Warsaw University and holds a doctoral degree in particle physics. So it's absolutely a pleasure, and you will see today why I'm so excited to have Maciej on the show on the first episode, because we will talk with a prime contractor. Okay, so let's jump to the questions I prepared for Maciej today. Of course, you can ask additional questions in the Q&A session, and we'll try to also manage to deal with your own questions. So Maciej, tell me why the data is so important for the space sector.
Okay, first, let me welcome everybody. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Answering the question, basically, data drives the space sector, and it was always so, because first applications of space were data connected. There was telecommunications. This was the first application, the long-range TV transmissions, telephony. Then there was, getting imagery from space, first were done by using photos, but then it was quickly digitalized and sent back to Earth in digital format. So again, this is data. And global positioning, again, data. So data. And if you look at business applications, not only governmental or military applications, this is data. So why don't you think data when thinking space? Because data is not that spectacular as space hardware. There is no, flames coming out of a rocket, and there is no roar of a starting rocket, and all the smoke around. Data, yeah, I would say is a little bit more silent, but everything is about data. And when you look how this business and the use of space is organized, all the stuff that goes up, rockets, satellites, and so on, this is the upstream hardware. But all the activity and effort to get the results of the work of upstream, so getting the data down to Earth, then storing it somewhere, preprocessing, processing, delivering it to users, extracting information from data, this is downstream. Data downstream activity. And, generally, this data can be quite big these days because we have high resolutions, we have high repetition rates. Every few days there are new images. When you, I have a very good example. There is a European constellation of satellites monitoring Earth all the time. It's called Copernicus, and there are several satellites. There are optical radar satellites, meteorological satellites, spectrographic satellites in this. And only this constellation generates some 25 terabytes of data daily. So it's like, I don't know, 700 or 800 terabytes monthly. It's like 1,000 of disks in your laptops. And all the time, coming. So you need to have a lot of space for this. You need to have a lot of computing power. And this needs the technology. For years, it was done in separate installations, but recently, mankind realized that there is a solution for such big amounts of data, and this is a computing cloud. That's why, that's why we are getting here, because CloudFerro is a downstream company and basically a cloud computing and big data processing company. So that's why we are here, because there is a lot of data coming from the space.
You mentioned first, you started with upstream, and this is what usually people think about the space. The space is upstream, the satellites, going to the Mars. We are coming back to the moon, but today we are talking about downstream, and this is what we have here on Earth. So tell me, because downstream is, it depends on whom you ask. If you ask, enthusiasts of space, they will also focus on more upstream. But downstream is a very important part of the space sector. Why is it?
Because downstream is really the results of what you do upstream. So if you have Earth observation satellites, they make images, optical images, like Sentinel-2 in Copernicus constellation. They can make radar images, Sentinel-1. They can make meteorological images, or they can measure, let's say, the level of global ocean or the temperature of ocean, and get a lot of data. And so if you want to have results out of Earth observation, EO, Earth observation, you have to get it down to the Earth and then use it and do something on the Earth downstream. That's why downstream, yeah. But you know, this is Earth observation, but it's not only Earth observation, because if you look at global positioning, again, it would be useless without receivers and without complicated software that makes use of the position, so that you know how many hours you are going to spend in your car or anything like this. Again, this is downstream. So at the end of the day, you need to have downstream to use the value of what you did in space. And even if you think about deep space, if you send a probe to, let's say, Pluto, the room I'm sitting in is called Pluto in our company, by the way. Again, you need to get the data home and use it somehow. And using data means processing it to some usable format, keeping it, indexing it so that you can find interesting information in this very big amount of data, and delivering the data or the extracted information to the users. Again, this is downstream. So that's why downstream.
So let's jump into some kind of examples, what we can do with data, because as you mentioned, you operate in the downstream segment. So the question is, how can satellite data be used in the different sectors of economy, but also what can this data be used for the scientist or any of us? Because I know that you have amazing experience about that.
You know, I mentioned satellite positioning, which is not Earth observation, but all of you know, because everybody has a mobile phone. And but I believe that now, so there is a kind of a revolution in using satellites via, for example, global positioning. But now I think we are coming to a revolution in using satellite observation, because imagery is getting easier and easier to obtain and use. And there are more and more things people realize this data can be used for. And I can give you only a few examples because, yeah, interesting examples. For example, by using optical imagery and data from radar satellites, you can know what kind of crops you have in the fields. Is it a cereal of some type, or is it a rapeseed or something? So instead of going and asking farmers, you can get statistical information quickly, and you can get it every few days. Okay, crops are not changing that fast, but you also can know for what your land is used. It's called land cover. Mm-hmm. How much is used for cities, how much is used for industry, for roads, how much forest you have, how much agriculture. And again, with this, you can have information on the country scale, but you can also use it for local government to know, for example, that somebody started a new building, and then you can automatically check if there is a permit for this building by change detection. For example, in Copernicus, you have information every 3 days. So you can easily detect that something new has shown up. Yeah, you can use it for taxation. I'm not. I'm sorry to use such not that nice subjects, but there are also much nicer. For example, this is something that I always in awe that you can do this with so-called radar interferometry. You can measure ground movements of few millimeters. So you know, the satellite is on 600 kilometers, but you can measure that the ground moved by, I don't know, 6 millimeters. And by using this technology, people are able to detect that a pipe is broken, water is starting to work, and the level of the street is going down by millimeters. So you can send people to repair this street or this pipe before there is a bigger problem. So you see the pipe, which is 3 meters below ground, from 600 kilometers above. You know, I always find it fascinating. There are also, you know, other usages like meteorology. Weather forecasting is now based in many aspects on satellite information. These are applications that are very close to our everyday life, but if you look at the longer term changes of parameters like temperature, water level, or land cover, you can try to build long-term models like digital twin Earth models. And with this, you can try to numerically model things like changes of climate. You can check if there is enough food grown for food security. You, as a local authority, you can check if there is no new illegal garbage dump somewhere.
And that's a problem in Poland, as we know, sometimes.
Yes. So you can do this, yeah. Really, one can imagine a lot of applications, and as I said, with easier access to data, I believe that there is a lot of applications we don't even imagine. And but in a sense, they will come in some kind of a revolution, like global positioning. I believe that when first global positioning system, GPS, was open to the general public, nobody could predict what's going to be available. And we have very similar situation with satellite imagery. Nobody can predict where we are going to be in 10 years. But as I said, there are a lot of applications. And for everyday life, of course, for special applications like, you know, governmental and military, but also, you know, for science. It's open to use it.
Yeah, you mentioned it because I know that you are very open to the scientists that can come to you and actually work with you on their special projects. And I know that CloudFerro is very open to this kind of collaborations, and you have this kind of collaborations also in Poland. So coming back to your company, because we started and I teasered that you are prime contractor, because CloudFerro right now is the largest company in Poland, in Polish space sector, and the only one with the prime contractor status. Yes, we have a prime contractor, ladies and gentlemen, in Poland, and your prime contractor status is for European institutions such as European Space Agency, EUMETSAT, or DLR. What does it mean to you, for your company, this kind of prime contractor status?
Okay, first, let me explain how we got to this point. Yeah, because as we discussed a moment ago, upstream is more spectacular and picturesque than downstream, and there is also, let's say, a paradigm change in downstream that all the services are going into cloud, and somehow we are specializing in cloud services, in big data services. We specialize in solutions that are so-called open source solutions. So all our services are based on stuff which is written by global communities like Linux operating system. Some time ago, a few years ago, our company is 8 years old. Everybody around realized that there is very big amount of data to be processed and stored from this phase, and that the cloud is necessary for it. And there were no, like, you know, in space hardware like rockets, satellites, there are very big players, incumbents. The companies you cannot, it's very hard to compete with their experience and resources and so on. In case of downstream, since the cloud is relatively new in this area, there were no such let's say leaders. So we were able to compete with everybody. We have won some interesting projects and were given some chances by winning interesting projects, for example, for European Space Agency. And I think we used this chance to build enough competencies, resources, and experience to be able to provide solutions on our own, without being an nth subcontractor in the chain. So, as I said, we used our chance and we started to deliver solutions and demanding services to very important institutions. You mentioned them. And our success and position was also seen by the market around. And what this gives us? This gives us a chance to grow our business quicker, because we have direct access to customers. This gives us a chance to present our views on some important matters about the technology and how one can operate with such data. For example, we are invited to become one of the initial companies for European Alliance for Industrial Data Edge and the Cloud. And we took part in building a roadmap, cloudification roadmap for Europe. So being prime gives us in an easier business visibility and the chance to present our views. And this can be sometimes important when decisions have to be made. For example, should Europe prefer to use open source or should not? Currently, Europe prefers to use open source because this is a kind of solution that is not connected to proprietary intellectual rights. And it's easier to, let's say, have local competencies. And this is an important element of our approach because, you know, if you use open source software, it doesn't mean you don't have to understand how it works. You don't have to, you have to understand, and you have to be able to parameterize everything. And this needs local competencies, local engineers. You can provide then local support. You don't have to go to somebody somewhere. You build your resources on the ground locally, which is a very nice situation. That's why it's nice to be a prime.
We mentioned only right now, until now, we've spoken only on data processing. but this is not what you actually are only doing. So because you manage to take it all. So from building data repository, then data processing, right? So what is exactly the CloudFerro is doing?
Yeah, we are providing, let's say, the whole chain necessary to use this data. So we provide very big data repositories of now hundreds of petabytes of size. Petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. So a petabyte is 1,000 laptops. 100 petabytes is 100,000 laptops, yeah, of data. So it's a lot of data. So we are building such repositories to keep data of our customers. But when you have such big amounts of data, it's not only about keeping. This data has to be useful, and to make it useful, you have to index it and provide information about what data is where. Yeah. So, for example, if you need data, Copernicus data, because Copernicus is one of our important customers. If you need Copernicus data, optical data, so optical imagery from, let's say, to 2020, from the area of Bavaria, in, let's say, infrared spectral band, you have to find it, yeah? And for this, there are special solutions for data discovery that can be used interactively, can be also used machine to machine via interfaces called APIs. And then if you find this data and know how many data scenes are of interest to you, you can do something with this data. And again, there are several ways of doing it. You can either download such data to your system, if you have your own private computing center, or you can process this data on a cloud solution, which is close to the data. Why is it important that it's close? Because if you really want to process a lot of data, then there are very big data transfers, which are become cumbersome even now when we are, network oriented and so on. When you have to transfer 100 terabytes of data daily, it starts to be a problem. If you want to process it locally on the cloud, it's much easier. And you want to process it because to get information out of data, you have to apply some algorithms on it. And to apply algorithms, you have to just to run some programs that read this data, do something around this, and give an answer. They can be just algorithms, or it can be artificial intelligence. So you can then teach this intelligence to look for something in this data. But at the end of the day, you need to get information. For example, what is the humidity of the soil in some area? I've heard about solutions where sparklers, the watering systems are steered, run by data coming from satellites and saying, humidity level is too low. Open water taps. So yeah, for this, you need to have first storage, then all the tooling around the data to get correct data, then data delivery mechanism, and then processing around this. And this is our business. This is what we deliver to our customers. For example, for ESA, we are running one of so-called long-term archives, places where they keep the, let's say, reference data coming every day, every month, every year. There are several such LTAs so that there is redundancy, but generally this is a reference place where this data is stored. But this is not the only place. We are also, for example, running something the cloud and storage platform for something which is called Climate Data Store in ECMWF. ECMWF is a European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast. If you sometimes check weather forecasts on, I don't know, Euronews, they are done with the use of ECMWF's forecasts.
Oh, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think also Windicom is using ECMWF's data.
Oh, the Windicom, yeah, I have an app for that. Yeah, I'm using very often.
I'm not sure about this, but we are also providing such storage and exploitation platforms for other entities like German Aerospace Agency, CDLR. So this is generally what we do.
That's the story gets better. So you can see, guys, if you next time visit Euronews for the weather, think about CloudFerro. Actually, we have one of the questions that is connected to my next question coming from Mark Mayer. Hi, Mark. How can we bring the knowledge and all the data to a brighter public? And the question about that, on that, is about CreoDia's platform, because I think it connects with the question. How we can use this kind of platform and use it for the public usage.
Mm-hmm. A few years ago, it's European Space Agency, on behalf of the European Commission, decided to try this approach of having online data easily accessible, close to processing infrastructure, and several so-called DIAS platforms were started. DIAS is for data and information access or analysis service. And one of them is CreoDias. This is the one we are running since 2018. And this is exactly a big repository of Copernicus data, but not only Copernicus. There is also American Landsat data out there and some other repositories. And there is the cloud, and there is some tooling like the Finder that you can find the data of your interest. There is the browser. You can if you use browser.creodias.eu, you can find a place of your interest and check what kind of data sets are available and see how they look like. So this is the first way of approach. If you want to spend less time on IT and you don't want to run your own programs on your own virtual machines in the cloud, you can try to use so-called Jupyter Notebook solution, where you can write small or not even small Python programs to get some info from those data. And for example, one of the first exercises is to make a small film, for example, to see how a road is built or a bridge is built in your in a place you live, because this is the data in a very long time series. So you have data from the beginning of Copernicus till now. You can check how everything was changing around you. You can use also additional solutions that can make such actions easier in an interactive way. So they are accessible via a platform like CreoDias. So this is a first place to try, to check if you see this data, if you can read about what's there, and then you can start reading, you can start checking. But anyhow, at a certain moment, some IT knowledge is probably necessary. But it's good just to have a look at it.
I have a question also from one of our users here that also corresponds with the thing we talked just before that, from Helena. Hello, Helena. Are there cities that actually utilize such monitoring already? For example, there are streets of infrastructure like pipes you described. How much would it cost for the municipality to set it up with the monitoring? I think the second one is a very hard question, but let's start with the first one actually.
You know, I've heard about such cities. For example, I've heard about Rome. They were using it more for results of earthquakes or works connected to underground construction to see what is the impact on the ground. How much it is going to cost, I don't know, because this is such monitoring service, we don't deliver it. We deliver the tooling that allows to build such a service, but I know a company that could do it for you with pleasure. So if you would like to try, I can give you a contact. Okay, I have no idea how much would it be. I would assume that since it's not in a very common use, it's not going to be very cheap, but I don't think it's going to be very expensive. And you know, the more people are going to use it, it's going to be cheaper.
And do we have this kind of examples in Poland, in any city? This also.
I heard about such trials.
Okay.
One of the bigger cities. Unfortunately, I haven't heard that it became a standard procedure, which I don't understand because this is a standard problem. And okay, but you know, life is sometimes complicated because okay, in case of piping, you can just check how it works. But in case of using satellite imagery for things connected to regulatory matters, for sometimes it was not clear that you as administration of local government you can do this, because in some regulations it was written that you can use maps, topography maps, you can use orthophoto maps from airplanes, and you know, satellite was not mentioned in the law. Yeah. And if you are an administration, you can do only what's mentioned in the law. So these are problems that can slow down the revolution, but we hope that it's going to be solved. Because, for example, in common agricultural policy, monitoring of crops, there is a general policy, again, of European Union to use satellite data. So every common agricultural policy agency in any place in Europe should use this data. And there is a regulation about this. So the technology is here, algorithms are here, data is here. Sometimes we need additional push from the regulatory level.
So the law is following the technology.
Yeah, I believe it's coming. So it's going to happen.
Yeah, you mentioned that regulatory. The latest success is the participation in the Copernicus data space ecosystem. This is I know that it's your recent one. How do you engage in this project? Because when I learned, it's amazing what is coming actually for all of us here in Europe.
Yeah, I have mentioned Copernicus several times because this is a satellite observation flagship of Europe, of European Union, and it generates a lot of data that has to be kept and delivered to users, and there are special solutions, access hubs, so far that deliver such data, and currently it's going to be called CDSE, Copernicus Data Space Ecosystem, and this is the data. These are tools around the data, like, as I said, discovery, processing, like browsing through this data. Recently, we, as a member of a consortium, bigger consortium with European consortium with the Systems, Synergize, and Vito, and other companies from all around Europe, we were chosen to deliver such service. So let's say a reference data source for Copernicus. And in a sense, you know, it's, CREODIAS could be seen as a predecessor of this approach. And currently, you know, in CDSE, in the data space, there is data that is available to everybody, open to everybody. Of course, since there is a lot of users, there are some limitations, but yeah, it's free, you can use it. And CREODIAS is an element of this data space that can deliver, again, some free services, but also commercial services like data processing and virtual machines and serverless processing and many others. The new thing about all this is that most of the data, 90-something% of data, is going to be online, available immediately. So instead of waiting, I don't know, minutes or hours to get some data, you get it immediately in milliseconds. You can connect this data immediately into your processing chains, and this gives a new value and a new quality of data usage. Of course, this means a lot of data, because currently it's 30-something petabytes of data, soon 40. In 6 years, it's going to be probably more than 90 petabytes of data, a lot of. And we are ourselves, CloudFerro, we are responsible for all the data tooling, you know, ingestion of data, indexing, data discovery, delivery of data, keeping of this data. So we are, let's say, a base for other services that are on this. But why the immediate access is so important? It's so important because then you can do things that were much more complicated so far. Like, for example, you can easily check long time series. You can check something that started, I don't know, 6 years ago, and immediately make an analysis of the change. If you want to make modeling, like in digital twin Earth models or destination Earth related stuff, this is crucial. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, when you want to select some remote areas or bigger areas and so on, again, if you have it online, it's quick and easy. You don't have to wait for anything. Generally, when we started to approach this subject, when we listened to people presenting some data analysis and information extracted from this data, I don't know, half of the time they spent on data consolidation, getting this data, checking that it's correct, and so on. Now, this is something which is past, it's gone. It's you don't have to spend this time on data consolidation. It's there. You can get all the information necessary via API. You can put it into your program, or you can use I don't know, Jupyter Notebook or Sentinel Hub or OpenAI, and you get what you need quickly. We believe that this is one of the elements of the data, Earth observation data revolution.
Well, before I jump to the next question from the user, because it ends with the civil society impact, I have a question about the civil society impact. You mentioned about, historical data, something that started 6 years ago. And I wanted to ask you about the project that is based on something that started a year ago. Unfortunately, we have a war at Ukraine, and you got involved, in my opinion, in a fantastic project, fantastic initiative. It's called Earth Observation for Ukraine. What does this project consist of? So what does it give to Ukraine, and what European institutions can learn from it?
Generally, it's about help for the Ukraine, which is suffering and fighting against Russian aggression. Yeah. So it consists of several elements. I would say main are connected to monitoring of the things that are happening there. And you probably all of you heard about problems with cereal production or food production, or problems with the production of oil from one of the crops and so on. So such monitoring data can be of great use. If you add deforestation caused by the war or by aggressive deforesting by occupation forces, this is again, you can monitor it. Recently, I saw Sentinel-2 plots of some Russian fortifications in occupied territories. So you can use it for many things. So delivering this data was one of the subjects. The other thing was connected just to the work of Ukrainian scientists. At a certain moment, they were deprived of computing infrastructure because of lacks of energy, power losses, blackouts, and so on. It happens sometimes. So again, they could use remote cloud platform to perform their work, and this was another idea in this. And around this, one could get relevant experts and interested institutions or companies. There is a list of people or institutions who are helping in it on the page of our company. It's CloudFerro something EO for UA, so you can check in more detail. Some of the actions are already done, some are in progress here. Yeah, basically the lesson is that if you have competencies and resources locally close to then you can quickly deliver some kind of a solution or some kind of help. So
can it help the Ukrainians to plan for the future for the crops, because Ukraine is regarded as one of the most important world's farms, actually, if I can say this. It's a huge land, and if we look at this glimpse photos coming from TV, when you can see tanks destroyed on the field. So when you destroy the tank of the field, there is a leak of oil that is going to the ground. So actually, does this project will also help to to check the situation, which ground is ready to be used in the future, which is not?
This is a very good question. I don't know, because as I said, we are delivering and providing more means platform.
So data. They can use this for their purpose.
Yeah, they can use, external experts can use. I hope that also some companies that can deliver very high resolution data can help with very high resolution imagery close to the areas of special interest. So a lot of things can be done. What's going to be done? I'm not sure. As I said, it's developing very fast.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of ideas what can be done with the use of it. Once I saw a film, again, done using, I think this was Sentinel-2 imagery from Copernicus, done probably with the use of infrared as well, showing fires as they move like the front line. So you could see the fiery front line moving first to the west and stopping and moving to the east. We keep fingers crossed that it will move fast to the east.
So we started to talk a little bit about examples, and I can see the interesting question from Christoph. Can we give, or can you give a few concrete examples of your private and public users, how much it costs them, and or how they can make money in the overall data value chain? So I think that this kind of inspiration answer can be very interesting for how to use.
You know, if you go into CRO-DS, there is a public price list of services, and there are also let's say usage scenarios. So it's easy to calculate that depending on the usage, the amount of money that one should have starts from a few €100 monthly to several thousands or more. When you look, but you can check it. Yeah, it's there. If you have a big project, we are open to talk. If you ask about how much the algorithm to extract interesting data is worth, it can be worth anything or everything depending on the value of this data. You can, you can easily imagine if this is an information for an insurance company that is meant to pay, because a field of some valuable crop was destroyed by something, then for such an insurance company, it would be very interesting to check if this field was really full of this crop. And you can probably do this, and this can be connected to quite a lot of money. So while I can very exactly tell you how much it's going to cost you to have this kind of storage, this kind of a virtual machine, and or I can give you a serverless processing from one level of data to the other, and if you know how much scenes you want to process, you will get an exact price. It's much more complicated to measure the value of information, because sometimes it's priceless, but it depends on what information you can get out of this data.
Yeah. So Maciej, because I can see the time is running very fast and we are almost at the end, I have a last question for you that actually can be the big question opening the next discussion. What challenges you see for today for the space sector in Poland and in Europe?
It's when you look at Europe, Poland is 4% of European economy, and Europe is probably the biggest economy in the world. But when you look at the various fields of space sector, it's not always that Europe is a leader. Yeah, in some aspects it is. Copernicus is absolutely, the Copernicus rules in the area of constant monitoring from the space. But Galileo is a very good positioning system. It's said that it's the most exact, it gives most exact positioning. But on the other hand, if you look at new constellation of satellites, Earth observation satellites, I wouldn't say that European constellations are the most, the ones most talked about, yeah. So, and also if you look at, I don't know, launchers, rockets, again, there are And if you look at this, if there is less constellations, there is less downstream business, for example, for us. And if there is less, and if there are American constellations, it's not very likely that they are going to have us as their first choice to put their data. Okay, American, Chinese, or whatever. So in a sense, some things are going a little bit slower in Europe, and Europe is less eager to take risks. There is less high-risk capital. And I would say that there is a culture of buying systems instead of services. Yeah? So governmental institutions have a tendency to buy everything, yeah, and generate some institution to run it, instead of buying a service that delivers it. So it would be great, Copernicus is buying services. So it's a perfect anchor tenant for service companies like us. It would be great if this was a standard procedure to buy services, because this allows to grow competencies and resources and business. And in Poland, yeah, it's a little bit similar. Yeah, we would like more services instead of systems. If there is a need of Earth observation autonomy, a country like Poland buys own satellites and builds own processing center, instead of buying this processing and downstream from somebody who is specialized in it. So this is one thing. The other thing is that in Poland, Poland is 1/6 of German economy. Mm-hmm. DLR's budget is more than €1 billion yearly. I would say 150 million euro for Poland would be just the proportional value. Currently, Poland spends probably 60 or 70 million as contributions to ESA, EUMETSAT. So there should be 100 million euro of a yearly budget for local projects, if we want to be, in the same speed. And I would believe, but I'm not very objective on this, that we should be even faster. But with a budget of 100 million euro, Poland could build own observation capability with own satellites, because there are companies that know how to do this with own downstream. And one can also think about complicated scientific missions, like what the Chinese did with a lunar lander or with a lunar orbiter. We would love to have data from lunar mapping, for example, on our platform. So I would say this is it. So one thing is buying services instead of buying systems or boxes, and then putting enough budget into the area, because it attracts competency, experience, and this is something that you need in a country if you want to have a high-tech economy, obviously.
One good statement that people should remind here is that we have capacity for, as you have all heard today, for running large repositories, for big brands, for big institutions. Maciej mentioned also that we also have companies capable of making satellites, and this is actually what I will also touch in one of the further episodes of Space Café Poland. We have a few other questions, but guys, we don't have all the time, unfortunately. Andrzej, yes, we send you a link. We will send you the link for this, what you're asking for. And Piotr, yes, Ukrainian space sector developing cooperation with Polish space sector, for example, because for the last year, there was a deal between Poland and Ukrainian space agency. If you go for any space conference and you go to the Polish booth, there was always 2 flags representing, and and maybe we can see something also in the future. So thank you very much, Maciej, for your time. I know you are super busy, and so I'm very privileged to have you on the first episode of the show. And
pleasure to be here.
It's probably we'll have more talks about it, because the downstream and everything we touched today, this is only the tip of the iceberg. And we can go deeply and talk about many interesting projects. So that was it, folks. This is for today, for the first episode of Space Cafe. I hope you liked it. And I'm giving the floor back to our noble Elena.
Thank you, Lukasz, and thank you, Maciej, for this great talk. Before we say goodbye, let me remind you all of the upcoming events. So next week, from the 17th to the 20th of April, Emma and Thorsten will be at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs. So tune in for the best coverage you can get for this exciting conference. On the 25th of April at 4 p.m. in Central Europe, join our Space Café 33 Minutes with Clemens Kaiser of Privada Space Networks. And on the 27th at 4 p.m. again, we're launching a second new regional chapter, Space Café India by Enrica Valuri with Dr. Rajagopalan. And on the 28th of April, again at 4 p.m., join our Space Café Scotland by Angela Matisse. On the 9th of May, we're gonna stream our Space Café 33 Minutes live from Berlin's International Academy of Astronautics SmallSat Conference, so don't miss that. And the day after that, at 6 p.m., again in Berlin, this time in person, in town, join our Space Café Berlin by Andreas Scheppers from the planetarium of the city. And as an outlook, mark your calendars for the 23 to 25th of May, Global Space Conference on Climate Change, GLOC, in Oslo. We are very excited to cover this conference, because space sustainability is a topic very dear to our hearts. So tune in for that. And on the 1st of June, with an hour that is going to be announced very soon, join our Space Café Law Breakfast with Stephen Freeland. Of course, you can find and subscribe to all our events on Eventbrite. And as always, we would love to hear your feedback. So please check in with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Don't forget to sign up for our daily and our bi-weekly newsletters. And if you want to treat yourself with something special, become a Space Watcher today or help us in the supporter program. Thank you all very much for your interest today. Thank you, Lukasz, for hosting that inspiring talk. Thanks again to the entire team behind the scenes for doing that great job week by week again. Thank you, dear audience, for joining us. I hope to see you next week in upcoming events. In the meantime, visit our website and follow us on social media. And don't forget, become a Space Watcher. Bye, and thank you all.